Greetings. Hello, everybody. This is Sri Srinivasa welcoming you all to yet another episode of It's Different News, Views, and Music Show. Shortly, It's Diff or IP Productions, which stands for It's Diff Productions. And the main purpose of this program is as we learn things, we care and share with everybody. So today, the topic is all about remote working during COVID. And the question is it new remote working, or is it something that we always have known, but just suddenly got into the limelight, right? So to talk about that, how should an organization prepare? How should an individual prepare? How would a team prepare? How would a project team member behave? And how would a project leader behave? We have two guest speakers for our show today. So first of all, let me welcome you all, our listeners, supporters of itsdiff, whichever part of the world you are, and you're watching through YouTube, watching through Facebook Live, or through Twitter, or through Twitch, and whatnot, right? And thanks for all your support. So let me just welcome our two guests for today. Here, one is Katie Scheuer, and welcome, Katie. And then, of course, you all are familiar with Prabhu as well. So, Prabhu, welcome to our show again. So, this is our leadership series today. So, before I get too far, let me just read a little bit of introduction here. And Katie Scheuer designs remote work learning programs for teams, leaders, and companies. A career coach of 10 years and adjunct faculty at 2 universities, she is committed to the professional development of adult learners. She earned her Master's of Science in Education from Penn's Graduate School of Education. So we once again extend a warm welcome to Katie to our show. Yeah. And Prabhu is a BS in Applied Science and 30 years of worldwide experience in business development, channel marketing, product marketing, recruiting, and mentoring in software and consulting industry. Championing implementation of right tools for the business, for the ERP and on-premise and cloud, CRM and digital transformation and whatnot. Active volunteer for nonprofit organizations here in the Bay Area, basically very, very charity-minded, and gives his skills to organizations. Advisor and mentors to startups, and a big proponent of positive thinking. Just a little bit of brief about me for those of you who not know me. This is Sri Srinivasa. I'm a PMP certified from PMI, and also governance in enterprise IT, as well as information systems auditor from ISACA, which is again a nonprofit group worldwide known. And also recently graduated from Harvard Business School. Very proud to say graduated in distinction from Business Analytics program. And also did the edX entrepreneurship program on taking idea to market. So basically, the goal is at this point, wanted to entertain, provide information to audience. So I revived this It's Different program, which is It's Different News, Views, and Music Show, which I used to run for about 11 plus years from Stanford University campus. So got access to all the professors for some nice present interviews and community leaders, etc. Now I'm trying to leverage some of the, network. I'm just refreshing that during this COVID times for the benefit of the community. And of course, requested a few Harvard professors as well to be part of our show, and wanted to learn from them. And now we are going to learn today from Katie and from Prabhu. And also, dear listeners, you'll also have a chance to chime in on what are your learnings on this remote working, basically, and then how are you coping up? So you can punch in your comments in whichever tool that you're using. So to start with, as mentioned, as part of this leadership series, and what you say, well, it's all about remote working. What does the leadership part come in here? So just a bit about that is you need to be a team member first, and then you do all your due diligence and be sincere in your efforts and attempts, and you become a leader, and then you become a project leader as well. You become an organization group leader, department leader, and you become the leader for the whole company. So you need to know right from the ranks that you go up. So without much ado, I would like to welcome Katie once again, and then I wanted to have her share some initial thoughts about what's this remote working? I mean, is it something people are talking about as new? What do you think, Katie?
Thank you so much, Sri. I'm so excited to be here tonight. So the remote work conversation is one that's being had around the world right now. And if we think about remote work, it means different things to different people. When I first joined the remote work community, it was actually as a digital nomad. I was someone who left my co-located university job to travel and to work in a contract role. So working with different organizations in small teams, and we were traveling, working together. And then after some time, I joined a company that was 100% distributed, meaning that all of the employees worked in different locations all around the world. We had multiple countries. And so I started learning about these remote work organizations. And there are many that have been around for quite some time. You might have heard of Buffer, GitLab, Automatic. These are very popular organizations, very large remote organizations where there is no central office. But there's also other terms that people are starting to learn. So you might have heard of a hybrid organization. This is a remote team that might exist within a co-located space. So some team members exist on site. If we think of Deloitte as an example, there's locations where people go into the office, and then there's also consultants who might work from home one day or might work from home, a few times a week, or might be permanently remote. So there's lots of different combinations, and remote work has been around for quite a long time. And my colleagues in the remote workspace will tell you so. Many of them have been working remotely or working from home for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And this is not a new conversation. However, for many of us, it's brand new. So I'm relatively new. It's only been about a year for me. And I know some of us are even more recent than that. So that's just an overview of remote work. But I'm really excited to talk to you about some of the topics tonight, especially related to creating a positive team culture and environment. And now I'd really like to hear a little bit from Prabhu about your experience with remote work.
Yep, that's a good segue. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie, for an introductory speech, and also thanks, Shri, for the opportunity. I have been exposed to remote work from 2013 for the companies I have worked with. One of the companies was an East Coast-based company. I'm basically from the San Francisco Bay Area, so they had an office in New Jersey. So I had to work with my team distributed between New Jersey and also offshore. So it was at that time when I joined the company, I had been in the US almost for 15 years, where I'm used to going to the office every single day. And since I'm from a sales background, most of the time I'm on the road. So it took some time for me to get adjusted, but now it's become a norm. After 2013, I worked for I started my own venture with a couple of my friends. So there again, we worked remote, various time zones. We had office in UK, we had office in Sweden, and we had multiple offices in India too. So different time zones, different teams, and you have to coordinate various different things and various projects. So learned quite a lot of things, learned a lot of efficiency related ideas, how to work and what are the tools we need to use. And currently I'm working as a sales director with a Bay Area based company called Trinity Corporation, where they specialize in ERP. Though we have an office in San Jose, near San Jose Airport, most of the time I work from home, and our consultants and our employees are distributed all over the US. So everybody, most of the time, either on site or they work from home. So like we have got adjusted again to, even prior to the COVID situation, this kind of working is nothing new. And I have been hearing work from home concept quite as early as even in the industry, about 10, 12 years back itself. I had a few friends who used to work for Bank of America down in Concord, downtown, where like not very far from where I live. They vacated a complete very big building and they moved East Coast. And most of the employees were asked either to move East Coast or work from home. So, and I have seen a lot of tech companies adapted to this kind of work from home concept even before COVID situation. So, this is kind of new for most people, but for I think tech industry and a lot of services industry, where there is not much of customer interaction or like especially the healthcare and other places where you need to meet the patients. I think this has been quite common. That is my perspective. Like working with various teams, even in this like 100% remote is is a big challenge which we are all facing. I think Sri and Katie, all of you would give more light on some of the techniques and from various different perspectives during the part of this show. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu and Katie. So here is where I come from, right? So as you know, my theory is from a technology company, the software development and stuff. There's always been remote. You see that you have offshore development. So pretty much it's like, you know, for you they are remote. So the remote concept wise working is where you talk to your team member who's not working here in the same office. That's the first thing. But they are in a different environment, and I've seen the support model that works for folks where these guys are not even working in the offices. They're all in their own satellite, which is like their home office location kind of stuff. So but they still support a huge business operations globally right from their home. It is, I'm talking about before COVID situation. So the point here is, technically there is always this has been happening for either a support application support on an IT industry I'm talking about. But here what we are seeing a great trendsetter is, it's not just one particular industry. Healthcare industry, you can take supply chain industry, right, for example, or you can take manufacturing industry of the supporting arm, not the true manufacturing itself. You know what I mean? The sales and delivery for that matter, the marketing for that matter, right? So or it's not the help desk, which is another thing. So my point here is, this is like from an organization standpoint, what are all the things that one has to really focus on? For example, technically, are they ready? Psychological aspect, when I research in Harvard Business Review or the Forbes stuff, and I just read, or also I looked at a couple of YouTube and see what the experts say, etc. I find that, you know, one has to have the right mindset, and they need to be technically ready, they need to be psychologically ready in terms of the preparedness on this. And I know since March now, it's June, but the question here is, what I need input for this discussion is it going to be like this? It looks like the answer is yes. Nobody knows how long. But the thing is, we got to accept the reality. And then what do we need to do? So I want in the next, like say 15 minutes, let's peel the onion, right? And then see, Katie, I leave it to you, to see. We wanted to take from your learning aspects and stuff like that, where a lot of organizations reach out to you and then see, let's come up with some kind of a program which will motivate the individual, which will help the learning aspects and stuff. So what do you think, Katie? Where do we go next from here?
I definitely think the different layers of the organization need to be looked at. We approach it, of course, from a learning perspective. We're a training organization, but any company, any organization can approach it from the individual level, the team level, the the leader level, and the company level.
Right.
So each of these need to be addressed separately, because if you have an individual who has never worked remotely, there may be very basic skills that they need in order to have a productive workday. And these are very simple tasks, very simple components of one's workday that are not always discussed, right? And so if you imagine in a corporate environment, say you walk into an office space, that entire room has already been designed for your comfort, for your ability to work. But as a remote worker, you're responsible for the ergonomics within your space. And that's just one example, right? There's also time management. Remote workers need to self-manage. So we can go through every category for just the remote worker individual. But then we need to scale that up to the next layer. So how is this individual working with and communicating with their team? So we can talk about all of the communication channels that are necessary. We can talk about how do you build rapport with someone that you work with but you've never met. So that's another type of skill set that we should discuss. And then you move up again another layer to the leadership level. How are leaders and managers, and we can even split that more granularly, but how are they driving the vision for this remote team? How are they ensuring accountability? How are they ensuring that the team is performing up to par if they're not able to see their team? And then we also broaden it to the whole functioning of the organization and how is it being even more productive and even more efficient with a remote component, which is, of course, the goal. And a lot of organizations, there's this great pyramid that you can see going around. I should have brought it as a visual, but we can share it with your viewers afterwards. But there's this great visual to show companies where are you on the scale moving towards asynchronous work, because the ability to work asynchronously should be a goal of your organization. Now, it doesn't mean you're always going to be working asynchronously, but it does mean that you want to be striving to have that ability, because what a lot of remote work advocates talk about is, companies that are working only in a co-located environment simply only know that one mode of communication and work, which is synchronous, all working at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so the remote work community says we can maximize time, maximize teams across time zones if we can effectively communicate and work asynchronously. So I think that would be how I'd want to structure the conversation. And I'm really curious about both of your experiences with all of the layers that I've just outlined, and then also your experience with asynchronous work, because that's the conversation that's being had in the remote work community.
Sure. So definitely what I wanted to say is I like you need to set the ground rules first in terms of get to a common understanding as an organization. What do you expect from the team? You set some ground rules and policies and procedures. So that way a clear expectations is set. So why don't we just jump into it? So Prabhu, would you mind kicking us off with that? You pick. You wanted to talk about the team member or individual, or please feel free. Well, let's just dive into the details now. I think Katie has set us the various aspects of this remote working. Please.
Yeah. Thanks, Shri. So it's very interesting that Katie brought up a point which I wanted to bring up later, which she brought about ergonomics of the workspace around you, basically even when you're working from home. And that was the conversation I was having with my wife. She's a certified ergonomist, and she said, hey, are you going to ergonomics even at a work from home space? That's the area which she is a professional ergonomist for last 13 years, and she got recently certified on work from home remote ergonomics assessment. So literally you stole my point, but thank you.
Hey, it's there in a common question. By the way, you know something? When we talk about this, sorry to interrupt there. Rahul, thank you, Rahul, for your comment. I can just punch in his comment here. You can just read this. What a coincidence that is. He's asking exactly
I think
about
Rahul also the
Whose
point exactly.
responsibility is this? Look at this. Now you can answer this, right? Thank you,
Yeah.
Rahul, for asking the question.
Thanks, Rahul. I think that is another aspect I wanted to cover. So that's the advantage of getting the chance to speak ahead of uh, uh, the next person. So I think Sri has been partial to you, Katie. No, I was just joking. So there are various aspects from an employee perspective when you're working from home. Um, Basically, even though you're working from home, we need to kind of establish a very strict schedule on when your workday starts, very similar to how you get ready to and go to your office and sometimes you when you go to a client's place, you go in formals and all that, to get that feeling. I always do is, hey, it doesn't matter whatever time I need to be in the office. That's the exact same time I would get ready, get prepared as though I'm going to the office. Sometimes my wife or family will, hey, why are you hustling and bustling to where are you getting dressed? And I will say, I'm going to my office room. So then I go lock myself up, and so that kind of sets the expectation even with your family members that for the next couple of hours till the time you take your break, you're not going to be disturbed, and you're going to be in meetings. So they're also kind of sets the routine, especially with the holidays starting. You have maybe high school kids, or I have a high school going son and daughter who is in college. So most of the time, since they also have all the Zoom meetings and schedules off time schedules, especially for my daughter because she studies in UC Santa Cruz. It's very interesting to know how we have evolved as a family and how it contributes to your productivity. See, finally, I want to bring that point to the productivity aspect of how you are going to be performed as an employee, as a part of a bigger team, because the organization has a certain set of goals which the leader or your CEO or your chairman would have communicated to you. So, and if you break it down to your team level and to your as an employee, you have to be cognizant of how important your contribution is going to be to achieve that common goal, and also to see how you are performing. So when you are remote, then are we meeting the standards set for the as an individual performer or as a part of the team? How are we going to be measured? So these are the key aspects which, as an employee, you need to be worried about, and you should have the right tools, the both in terms of the hardware and the software, and also the planning tools and the reporting tools. Because today, I think one of the topics which we always is favorite about is analytics. He likes talking about analytics. So, what are the analytics that come out of the reporting you do? Well, how is your boss, or how is your what analytics are you if you are leading a team? What are the feedback you are going to give to the your team members? So these are the key aspects which you have to keep in mind while working, and also use various different kind of tools to plan and update your team. Like a lot of I've seen a lot of software developers use GitHub and other tools to update their code so that it is in a common place, accessible to people. And another thing, what if you are working in different time zone, as an employee, you have performed certain kind of work, you put it in a common drive or whatever is the cloud-based setup, you so that people don't repeat whatever work you have done, but they take it like a relay race. They take it from where you left to the next point where they need to complete as per their role or their
Okay.
area of work.
Yeah. So I think
I think from that point, I would hand over to Sri and Katie
yeah.
to discuss further.
No, this is good. Yeah, you've given. Let me just make sure the echo is not there. So you brought up a couple of good points, Prabhu, because I noted down. First of all, organizational goals, team goals need to be communicated downward so that everybody is on the same page. Point number one. Okay. The second point is you need to also communicate how are they going to be measured from a productivity standpoint so that there is no surprises. I thought, no, there's no question of I thought, you said, I said. No, there is always a common understanding. This is how you are going to be measured. You're working 40 hours a week, set expectations upfront, and then here are the milestones that you need to be meeting, because these milestones are strategically or organizational goals and objectives, right? So you have to meet that. So that means you are actually making him or her, or basically feel proud. You are doing some tasks which results in a milestone that is contributing to the organizational goals and objectives. Oh my God, I feel proud. And you are measured on your productivity. And so what is not measured cannot be monitored or improved and things like that. So you brought up a very good point. So as a manager, I need to communicate that. As an organization leader, I need to tell all my managers. So you are addressed a lot of good things there. And then the third point, which is the tools. Fantastic. That's a very good point there, because there are lots of tools. Like you said, GitHub, the entire company, GitHub, started with remote. Into the C-level executives and everybody is remote. There's no organization perspective. There's no brick and mortar organization. I heard so. Okay, people correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody has got a comment, please let us know as well. Then the point here is the main thing is on the tools front, of course, the what do you call Slack. Then you got Microsoft Teams kind of tools, and you got lots of chat tools. And one of the things which I am so pleased, which is form a collaborative space for them to hang out. Okay, and then share their thought process and things like that. And then what Prabhu you mentioned about is the tools fair, which is like a central repository, like your cloud-based space where you create a document like SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint or Google Docs or whatnot in the company space. You just put it there and people can update each other, especially when you are remote. That will be good. Okay, of course there are a lot of project management tools and other things are there. Anyway, let me just give it over to Katie to just kind of take us through her experience and some learnings and expertise. Thank you.
Happy to. So Shri, you mentioned there's lots of communication tools. And then sometimes project management tools can actually be so crucial to the communication of an organization and also the organization of all these projects. So many of you might have heard of Trello, Asana. Our organization uses ClickUp. And the reason that we chose this tool, Shri, is because it does just exactly what you said. Every task that we put into this tool, and you might have seen the card-based organization systems, list-based, most of them you can adjust to your preferences. So my one colleague uses a list, I use a calendar view. So you can view these tasks all in different ways, and it's very tailored to the individual. But the best part about the tools that we use, and we use ClickUp, is those tasks and those objectives roll up to our quarterly goals. So instead of having dislocated projects, which some tools, are more basic, and for the average remote worker, they might be a great starting point. But I recommend looking for a tool that attaches itself to OKRs, and so that your organization knows that every task, every project that's being done is essentially coded to the company or the organization or team goals, depending on how large your organization is. So I think this is hugely valuable. And my favorite thing about using these project management tools is it keeps information organized. So on our team at Workplace List, we use Slack as our daily chatter. That's our daily conversation, daily communication. But anytime we start to have topic that's related to a project, especially these larger ongoing projects, we move the conversation into our tool, into our project management tool. So therefore, any conversations or questions that you have about the project, so for me, it would be creating a new course. It might be updating our leadership course. I can look at past conversations, and then any conversations or questions that I ask will be saved in that tool. So something else to think about when you're choosing a project management tool is that it's going to work for the needs of your team. They're all a little different. And so you want to spend some time looking. Don't just go with the popular one. We actually chose this tool partially because the tasks attached to goals, but also because dependencies. Our team wanted to make sure that before someone could move on with the task, it could be clear that the previous task is completed. So not every project tool has that, but I'm a huge fan of using project management tools because when I was brand new to the company, I came in without an understanding of the expectations. I did not know anything about the pace of the organization. I was coming from higher education. The only thing I knew is that higher ed moves slower than the rest of the world, but I didn't know how fast our organization would move. I didn't know the expectations. If my colleague says, hey, can you write this blog post? Do you want me to spend 10 minutes writing this or 3 hours or 2 days? Because I can allocate, I don't have any sense of expectations. But with a project management tool, it's really helpful because you can often attach time constraints and scope of the project. There's no loss in translation. It doesn't get stuck in emails. There's no lack of clarity. So that's been really wonderful as a new remote worker and then also as a team member, just because everything's out there in the open.
Yeah. So one thing that basically to the forefront is we need to set the expectations by training the new employee on what are the company's processes, tools, and mode of operations, methodology. That way they are all prepared, because you need to handhold in some cases. There are people who are experts. They know the drill. They have been doing this, but this company, this methodology, how we operate and things like that, maybe we need to meet. So before I give it over to Prabhu, I want to share one more thing. I actually watched just a quick video about what are the 21 things for remote working. So I don't think it was prepared for COVID, Prabhu and Katie. It was actually something, it was done before, I believe. It said, use your video first of all. And if that communication, it could be like a meeting, any kind of a video conferencing tool. If that, then the next one is basically use your phone call to communicate with the people, right? And then then the next one is use the chat tool and the collaborative space to communicate. And the fourth one is email. The question here is, you're going to be overwhelmed by the one person sends an email, puts it in the chat, text on the cell phone, gets on a Zoom meeting, right? And then there's going to be so much that's going to be overwhelming. So the advice is be prepared and communicate that also, and say, guys, it's going to be like this. We gotta get the best out of this one. Okay, Prabhu, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, like there is a lot of companies who brought out a suite of products to enable working from home. Like one company I could think of who came out with this a suite of products that too all assembled together from various softwares they had was Zoho. You must be familiar with Zoho.
Yeah.
They're a company based in Pleasanton, and they even offered to working employees and also small businesses who are going to suffer because of the shutdown.
Yeah.
Even when we didn't know when it was not going to get extended at like certain free of cost or at a reduced pricing for a certain period of time. And recently I read about ServiceNow announcing how to a certain set of tools again for remote working and like analytics about how the employees are keep tracking of how they are performing, and also whenever this is ending or when the employees are trying to return back to work, are we going to be ready to welcome back, and what are all the tools and techniques? People are thinking ahead of the game. to be get adapted to this kind of working. And one of the aspects which you brought about, Sri, was setting the right expectation, especially with the new employees. So they are going to be, this is very key element. Most of the authors or most of the experts talk about is what is our company culture, how they have to be get assimilated into the company culture is one of the key things which you have to keep reinforcing. And especially when you're not seeing that person in face to face, and there is no like a coffee table conversation or cooler conversation where that one-to-one personal warmth is not going to be there. You brought up another very interesting point of having most meetings on video, which I think I also mentioned in our last program also, so that it kind of brings that personal touch, because it creates an emotional bonding and that team spirit into the person, and he aligns with the corporate culture, and his productivity is going to be more. That is another key point we have to keep in mind, because at the end of the day, we have to be productive and stick to the timeline, the project management schedule, project schedule, which we put in part of the project management tools, which you mentioned about. And lot of times, when we use these kind of tools and adapt ourselves and document those, these could be our selling points when we go to the client. Like I have had experience trying to sell projects to corporate as well as public sector, where you are expected to produce a documentation of what type of project management schedule you would follow for the project, and whether can we give examples of past clients where we have done that. And this is though it is like a tool which we try to use for maximizing our own productivity, finally this could be your selling point to sell your services or product to your external clients, which is bringing in the revenue. As a sales director and as a person selling products and services, this is always in my mind: how do I transform whatever we do internally to the external clients? Like we are the current company where I'm working, we deal with an ERP software which is open source ERP. Before we could even go sell that to external people, we used it internally, tested it, and that is what we showcase even before we go and preach to the clients that, hey, buy this software. So, and we are able to show our own employee engagement, our own productivity, our own expense reporting culture, our own project, which we have done internally. We are able to showcase it to the client, which is a great story to go back and tell, and that becomes a reference point for the new employees who are joining the company.
Okay. No, that's
my view.
Yeah. So one thing I could immediately connect to this about the usage of tools, right? Back to the what, where, when, who, and how the tasks are dependent on each other. Going back to Katie's point on project management stuff, because that is super important in setting expectations. So I think we all have vehemently, we agree. We all agree violently. We agree here, and I wanted to just mention about that's one of my presentation in the Harvard forum. I was fortunate to present on the HBAP forum, Harvard Business Analytics program, is about the project management best practices. And so one of the things, the critical success factor is, of course, making sure that you have managing the triple constraints, but you need to understand that when is it due, who is supposed to do that, what are we delivering, how is it tied to the company's objectives, what are the tasks, the dependencies. If you really got some kind of documentation like that, that's pretty good, right? And the other point is we will cover because there is a psychological aspect also. In fact, I was reading an article in the Harvard Business Review by one of the Harvard Business School professor, Cedal Neely. I think I pronounced the name correctly. TSEDAL. I'll just spell it for you, Neely. And there are it says simple ways the leaders can get their employees stay productive, focused, and psychologically healthy. So we will just do it momentarily. So dear listeners, just wanted to do a public service announcement here. This is itsdiff leadership series. We are doing it, I mean, fortunately for the last 3 weeks on Mondays, but we do have other times also we have created. So check our YouTube channel, subscribe please. And then there are lots of things there, but you have to focus on the playlist, which is on leadership and book reviews. So I do a lot of book reviews too. Recently, we did Rajesh Shetty, who is my mentor and coach, and also Dr. Prasad Kaipa on basically how to be ignite the inner genius and how to be a leader and the leadership principles and stuff like that. We also talked to Harvard Associate Professor Vish Krishnan on the COVID rebound. So there are a lot of things that planned. So check out, and just to benefit the community, that's our common goal. itsdiff stands for It's Different, News, Views, and Music. We learn, care, and share. That's all it is. And this is Sri Srinivasa. And we'll continue. And I think there are some comments here. I think Padu has got a question here. So maybe Katie, let me just read this. And if you want to take that before your comments, okay. The frequency of meeting with the project team is very important. And he's talking about having a daily Scrum touch point. And how do we get this balanced? Because you're going to meet and update on a daily basis. It's a typical agile stuff, right? I'm so used to agile, which having a daily scrum, everybody stand in, nobody sits and take notes. Just sit there and then say, what did you do? Where are you stuck? Where is the backlog? And what are we doing? What's changing? So we are dynamically prepping ourselves to make sure we just adapt to the minimal viable product, for example. So the question is, Padu, the answer is, setting the right expectations is the way to go in my, but if you got additional thoughts, please feel free to chime in, Katie. Go ahead.
I would absolutely agree with that, Shri. It really does depend on the team. It depends on your goals. But I think most people want to have a touch point with their team at least once a day. Doesn't have to be in a live session. Doesn't have to be in a stand-up meeting over Zoom. Or even synchronous. But I know our organization, we all check in typically by 10 a.m. Everybody's come in if they're a full-time employee. There's less of a requirement if you're a contractor. But I think having a daily touch point is important for an organization, at the very least in your Slack channel, engaging with the organization. I also think that weekly conversation, so getting a FaceTime or a Zoom conversation with your manager or a peer, even if it's purely social, is again important to have that connection and that culture to the organization. So some organizations are working on bigger scope projects where they need to be heads down for days and days at a time. So those organizations will have a very different model than a company who's checking in casually, maybe working on different tasks or projects. I definitely think there's been interesting conversations being had about the need for all hands meetings. And this is something else we can discuss as a group. I know our organization has monthly all hands meetings, and they are synchronous, and we do speak over video. But some organizations will use an asynchronous format. So if they have a really large team and it's really not useful purpose to all get together all at the same time, or it's not possible. Some organizations are using Loom or other recording tools to capture information asynchronously. And my favorite thing actually that our organization does to keep connection without taking up too much time, like a daily stand-up, is actually our weekly blog. So instead of using a WordPress site, we keep it very simple. It's just in a Google Doc, and at the very end of the week, our core leadership will send maybe 3 paragraphs each, and it comes together. It probably takes me 20 to 30 minutes to read through the daily briefing, but if I didn't have time, I could skim through it in 5 minutes for the high points. But I take the time to read it, and I think it's kind of like soap opera drama. What's happening behind the scenes with the leadership? I always want to know. So if you can create that as a leader, or I encourage you as a team lead or a manager to create some of that excitement around your updates. I highly recommend it. You don't want people snoozing through your long 2-hour staff meetings. Mix it up. Try to make it fun. Maybe do an asynchronous version. Maybe add some gamification to it. We had this really fun all hands meeting where we used a Klaxoon adventure, which it's a tool that you can use for meetings. And in order for us to all learn about some new policies that our team was putting into place, our CEO created a game, which sounds silly, and it was. But it worked because what we needed to talk about was dull and boring, and she knew it. So try to be creative with the ways you connect with your team, and if you have ideas, share them with your leadership, because they don't want to be in boring meetings either. They just don't have time to plan interesting ones. It takes a lot of work. Our team's really committed to it because that's the work we're in. But if you're finding yourself sitting through boring meetings, maybe contribute some new ideas.
Yeah, interestingly, you mentioned this happy hour kind of stuff, right? Create a meeting just to have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey guys, we have been remote. You talk about projects, status, updates, and things like that. It's like a one-on-one. The one-on-ones that we do with the managers. That a lot of learning that I've got from people, experts. They say one-on-one should not be a project status update. It is like, how are you doing? What's going on? Are you blocked in your career? Are you having any challenges working in collaborating with people? Is there anything as a manager? Can I help you? Those kind of conversation, like
Shri, I want to be on a one-on-one with you. That I feel like already, I'm like, I want to tell you about my life.
Exactly. No, it's good. But in a happy hour situation, we did in HBAP very frequently, right? Let's all bring their coffee, tea, whatever, wine, drinks, whatever it is. Just sit there and chat about, okay, what's going on, right? Prabhu, you have a comment there, right? Go ahead, please.
Yeah. One of the things which the experts suggest is instead of when you're having a one-on-one conversation with a group of colleagues or a restricted group, instead of just checking or jumping into the conversation directly, which is more business aspect, they are suggesting that you little bit dwell on some of the personal things that might be happening in few minutes of a conversation. How are they right now in this COVID situation? How are they taking care of their groceries? Are they ordering online? Or how is the area reacting to the current shutdown in terms of various things happening around you? Is there a
the
curfew?
COVID-19 situation in general? Yeah, in general.
In general, or how is the or your parents back in India or wherever you are from? How are they doing? So just blend in the kind of a general conversation which you will kind of exchange those pleasantries when you get into a conference room. Do that and then kind of get into the formal conversation and kind of leave with a warmth so that people are not feeling pressurized getting into meetings. And another aspect, from the management's perspective, the employees most of the time are expecting is, are we being left out, being remote workers? Are we getting the complete transparency of what is happening in the company? What is happening with customers? What are all the new projects that you have won, or where is the company progressing in terms of the revenue? Whether we will meet the target this quarter, and how are the employees going to be dealt in case there is a situation the company is not had planned to face in this situation. Like we went about 3-4 weeks back, my CEO came up with a meeting where he met almost 200 plus employees worldwide on different time zone. Then he told how they handled situation in 2008 downtrend, then how they came out of that, and he gave examples of how we have to huddle together, work as a team, and work with a common goal. Don't lose your confidence. And it was a very big encouragement in an all hands meeting. So that kind of the culture, then it trickles down to various level, and the employees are also more attached to the company. It establishes more longevity of that person to the company and loyalty.
Okay.
That company is caring for me, and I have to care for the company.
Yeah, that's a very good point, which is again goes back to the point which we discussed a few minutes ago about top-down communication, and also the meetings when we say one-on-one is just to you can do it with the newbies and also people who are having the challenges to cope up with the remote working. So that's the one of the biggest issue here. So we got to make sure that they do that part very well. And second thing is, here is something interesting I found. In all these video conferences and video meetings and everything, you are getting something accomplished, like the water cooler talk. The water cooler talk where you get a lot of informational learning and improvisation, right? You just talk, hey, what do you think about this? I'm having this problem, not necessarily as a team member. You get some advice and you get some lot of things, right? Whereas you miss all that because, you are alone. So I'm just going into the psychological aspect now. So I'll ask you for your opinion. But what I wanted to see, the interesting part is when you watch this video, say, Katie, Katie has got a nice picture frame behind her. Oh, Prabhu has got a beautiful picture frame behind him. Oh, beautiful. So that means, hey, what kind of artwork is this? So I'm getting to know Prabhu very well. I'm getting to know Katie very well, which something that personal insight has never been. I never got an opportunity to know about this. Hey, this is my kids' artwork. Hey, this is my sports, the medal that I got. You know what I mean? So the virtual meeting, there is an opportunity to get to know the person. So that is very interesting, read. Whoever said that was very nice. Anyway, so let's go into the psychological aspect. So my question, who wants to take it? No problem. There's no priority here. I don't want Prabhu mentioning this. Psychological aspect. How do you deal with that? So basically, to make sure everybody's morale is positivity there, the morale is boosted, they are contributing, that productivity is more, 25% more, not 10%, not 15%, 25% more. So who wants to take that?
Well, I'm happy to mention I wish we had 3 hours, 10 hours. There's so many interesting topics to talk about.
We can come back as part 2. Don't worry about it. I know you're on the East Coast. I'm so sorry to put you at the time that I know it's already, oh my God, it is 10:30, 10:20.
No, okay. It's fine. So, for my experience, and this actually ties to the time zone. So when I first started working remotely, the first thing I did was teach an online class, work for Temple University, and I teach an online class. And so first of all, in the US, the time was 7 p.m., which meant when I was in Portugal, I was teaching midnight to 1 a.m. So getting used to working vampire hours is just all part of the remote game if you have colleagues around the world. But one thing I wanted to say to Shree's point is I think the psychology behind approaching remote work is like everything. If you're going to go into this looking for the bad, you're going to find the bad. And if you're going to go into it looking for the good, you're going to find the good. There's certainly challenges that don't exist in the in-person work environments, but there's also huge positives. So I would encourage everyone who's really struggling, spend some time thinking about the benefits that are coming into your life. So Shree's already mentioned we're getting invited into our colleagues' homes. Yes. We're getting a sense of who they are in a deeper way. Besides the artifacts that they're carrying on their bodies, they're also getting to show you a bit of their space. It's not just about attire anymore, but also you're getting to allocate your time differently. And there was a really interesting opinion piece that I read recently that says, well, is it a bad thing that we're no longer connecting with our colleagues? Because all that it means is now we're connecting with our colleagues and our communities and our neighbors and our families in deeper ways. I was very, very close with my team when I worked at Temple University, very close. And when I left, I noticed there was a shift. Since working remotely, I've spent more time with my husband, more time with my parents and grandparents. So the shift is an interesting one. It's not all negative. But I'll say that I still have a very close relationship with my new remote colleagues, some of whom I've never met before in real life. However, I feel just as close with the colleagues that I've met in person and spent time with at a conference as with the folks that I've only interacted with online. The connection and the relationship is there because we work at it every single day, and we come to work and we show up. This is driven by our leadership, but it's driven by every single individual that we want to create this connection. And so part of it is the individual's motivation to make remote work work. And I'll just say, people that are in the remote work community often choose it. I would say like 99% of the time, they're choosing that lifestyle. They're choosing that organization. All of us in COVID, everyone else, you really hadn't made that choice. It wasn't your preference. It wasn't your personality. It wasn't a strategic move on the part, of your career. It's forced work from home. So you also have to imagine that if there's choice in deciding to join a remote company or take on a distributed team or role, that is going to feel very different for someone that's experiencing forced work from home. So I just want to acknowledge those differences because, yes, it can be hard, and especially for individuals that have families, especially if you have children, especially if you are a single parent, or if you work multiple jobs. There's many factors that are going to differentiate this vision that we have of a digital nomad or remote worker or someone sitting on the beach from a single parent who has 3 kids at home they need to homeschool, because those situations exist as well. They're very different conversations.
Yeah, Prabhu, your comments, please.
Yeah, from the psychological aspect, a lot of times you have to keep your motivation up. And if you're a person who is a people person and you would like to do networking, you would like to go meet people once in a while. So, like schedule those kind of meetings once in a while. Like I always do that. Right now, it's all remote. Even those networking meetings we are doing on Zoom. Like in my consulting career, always last 15-20 years, we have had a group of friends from the consulting industry. We meet every second Thursday. We call it a CEO club because a lot of entrepreneurial people who from the industry, they became eventually entrepreneurs. So we discuss about the common problems we face, and there is no defined format. It is just having mixing business at the same time having a drink together or have a dinner together from people who are your comparatives in the industry. And one of the other things when you spend most of the time working remotely is like even within your home, try the different locations within your home, which are like so that you don't get into that monotony. Sometimes your upstairs office room might be more warm during the summer. You might want to come downstairs and work in a place where it is more cooler and get a fresh air. Sometimes walk around, take breaks. Like normally people like to go out on lunch walks. I've seen some of the offices in and around the community where people take lunch walks. So if you are a person who do a lot of those walking and all those things, try to incorporate that into your schedule. Of course, right now you cannot go to the gym. Like if you are a person who is running most of the time to keep yourself fit. Keeping yourself fit is another aspect which we most of the time ignore, which again we have to be very careful about. And so the physical fitness is going to have an impact on your psychological aspect also.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. I was just noting down a couple of checklists. You're right. What they say, the experts say, get a routine. You get up, shower and get ready, get dressed up as if you're going to the office, right? And then if you have a garden, a lot of people have shown interest in the garden now. So they just take a break and then go. Always look at the technology, and people think that I'm really stressed. I'm working 12 hours to 14 hours a day because I don't have anything else to do. I can't go out and things like that. No, get an opportunity, entertain yourself. Like you said, you both said, you have a workout, get a workout routine, so that way physical fitness gets the boredom out and you get charged. We have garden, and some people like cooking. Take a break and do that. And of course, since it's now we get to know each other very well in the family, right? So we all get to know the coexistence here right now, and then say, I'm on a call, can you mute yourself please? I mean, like, don't raise too much. Like, suppose people are all by themselves, the loneliness, that's a psychological aspect, right? So what I heard is, create chat rooms, like in Microsoft Teams for that matter, or the Slack channel or anything. Create a personal chat room kind of a stuff for socializing. So that's mainly to just talk about, hey, my cats, my dog, my cooking, my this thing. If I given a chance, if I go out on travel, I go to Hawaii, or I do this, and I will try, you know what I mean? So those kind of something where we establish a channel for discussing about project deliverables and a lot of things. But this is basically a social channel only to talk about what's happening in each other's life. My mom is like here, in India it's happening, in Africa this is happening, and things like that, or whatever socially happening. And of course, SpaceX and NASA launched the beautiful rocket made in America, everything in America, right? And after 2011. So talk about something which interests you on the space exploration. Elon Musk is a great leader, so all this visionary. So think about this kind of thing, so that gets you, oh my God, I'm charged now. Okay, let me just focus on my deliverable. You know what I mean? So that's the compensating factor for missing or the lack of the cooler talk. So get the chat room, workout, garden visits, bring some predictability, and show some, of course, a smooth shaven face. For the guys, they say, right, you don't need to be like so boredom. Look at your face and cheer up. Like one of my professor used to say, and then say, how many people look at the mirror and brush their teeth? They all look at as if, oh my God, I want to get up and brush my teeth. Look at the smile, and the mirror smiles back at you. You know what I mean? Psychological thing. Commonly think you will laugh at you. Next time, tomorrow when you do this, or tonight, you will say, just laugh at you. Hey, you're a nice man. You're a nice woman. You're this. So that's you just, like a pat on your back. I think I spoke too much, I guess. Sorry about that. Okay, so I think because these are some of the tips that I gleaned, and I think looks like there is a comment here. Yeah, and yeah. Any comments, dear listeners? You're listening to It's Different Show. This is Sri Srinivasa. We have the pleasure of talking to Katie and then Prabhu here, and we covered a lot of aspects, and on terms of productivity, team building, and of course having it as a fun exercise. I know we were a little bit went over an hour, so I just wanted to see if you are in a logical closure. But if you have any critical points that you want to share, please, we can extend by another couple of minutes. Okay, well, let's take turns. Prabhu, you wanted to share anything that we missed?
I think we pretty much covered most of the areas we planned. I'm good.
Okay, thank you so much for your time and effort, Prabhu. And Katie, thank you so much for giving us your time and in a short notice. And I really loved our interaction. Definitely, we'll come back for a next presentation as well with a different topic. Anything on your mind?
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me, Shri and Prabhu. This is wonderful to have this conversation, and I think a very important conversation to have among folks in industry, folks that are in small remote teams. We need to have more of these conversations together. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And dear listeners, if you, in case you missed any of our, leadership series, please do check our leadership playlist in our YouTube channel. And subscribe, of course. You can, everybody gets what they want. We have stories, and we have got lots of special interviews and stuff like that. So that's where the book reviews and all are being posted. itsdiff is our page on Facebook. In case if you are tuned in, please check our events page where I post all the events. So we're trying to earmark the Mondays for leadership series, and we are bringing up some health series and the career series. Again, we wanted to balance it out. with work schedule, with a family, and we wanted to balance it out. There's so much we can do, but again, with a common goal is we learn, we care, and we share. That's all the concept of It's Different News, Views, and Music Show. This is Sri Srinivasa as part of IP, which is It's Diff Productions, signing off from this special networking session and leadership series. Do send an email, itsdiff@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Until next time, stay safe, maintain social distance, and talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.